All right, so welcome to the third lesson of the year. And so we're starting out with rational exponents, and all rational is a fraction. So just go ahead and write that down on your paper. And we're going to go ahead and get started on the do nows. So a couple of problems about this just to make sure that you are good with this. So square root of 9, we've been discussing this. So we're looking for a number that when you square it or multiply it by itself gives you 9. And that number is 3. And on the bottom we have a 3 times radical 25. And so 3 times radical 25 is 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. And so if we were to simplify this, this is the same thing as 3 over 3 times 5 is 15. And so we look and see what number goes into both 3 and 15, and 3 does, right? So 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into 3 one time. So this really is the same thing as if there's no number on top, there's an imaginary 1. So that's 1 over 5. Another way you could have done this is looking to see what the common factor are. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Okay, so our fraction answer or simplification is 1/5. You could plug that into the calculator, but I want you to understand where this is coming from. Write the expression in simplest radical form. So what we're doing is kind of like a little tree. So we're looking to see what numbers multiply to give us 8. So numbers that multiply to give us 8 are 1 and 8, but that doesn't help me if I put this here because I still have to factor out the 8. 2 and 4, which is the same thing as 4 and 2, and 8 and 1 are the numbers that multiply to give us 8. So we already talked about why 8 and 1 or 1 and 8 don't make sense to go here, because then you still have to simplify the 8. So let's go ahead and do 2 times 4, which is 8. So square root of 2, there's no number that when you multiply by itself, that's a whole number and a rational number that gives you 2. So we're just going to leave this as the square root of 2. And the square root of 4, right, is just plain old 2. It comes out of the radical. So what is our final answer? Our final answer is 2. You usually put the number that doesn't have a radical first, and then you put the one that does have a radical next. So 2, right, that goes there, and then radical 2 goes here. So final answer, okay? 2 times radical 2. We should pause the video and just go ahead, and I'm going to ask you to do the square root of, let's say, 50, right? So if I were to go ahead and simplify this, so two numbers that multiply to give me 50, right? If I have 2 quarters, that's 50 cents. So I could do the square root of 2 times the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is straight up 5. The square root of 2 I can't simplify, so I break that down as just square root of 2. So our final answer is going to be 5 square root of 2, okay? If you need to pause the video and look up some more problems, this is called simplest radical form. All right, rational exponents, right? We talked about rational is the same thing as fractional. All right, so if you have a number, right, like for example, 8, right? I try to do actual numbers, and there's a 1 over another number. So 1 over, let's just say 3. So how do we simplify this further, right? We can rewrite this as this is equal to the third root of 8. Okay, so there's like an imaginary 1 here, an imaginary 1 here. So this is the way I remember it. The number on top, right? Tops are exponents, and the numbers on the bottom are roots. Okay, so where do roots go? Roots go on the inside, and the exponents go on the top. Okay. So if I have another example like this, if I have 8 to the 2/3 power, okay, I can rewrite this again as this is my root, so my cube root of 8, and then this number here is my exponent. We already talked that this is the root, so our exponents go on the top. So you could either put it here inside the radical, or you could rewrite it as the cube root of 8 to the second power. Okay, so if I wanted to figure out what that is, I could just plug this into the calculator. The cube root of 8 is the same thing as 2, because 2 to the third power is 8. So that's our final answer here. And if I were to say simplify this problem right here, the cube root of 8 we already know is 2, right? Because 2 to the third power is 8, and then 2 squared is the same thing as 4. So our final answer here is 4. All right. So exponents, powers, this number right here, the number that's down is usually our base. This is just some terminology that you can use. So we're going to go ahead and do a couple of problems. Okay. So first one. So simplify the following expressions. So we have, let's split this into 2. So if we have 8 to the 4 over 3, remember that's the same thing as the bottom number is our root. So here's our root. So it's the cube root of 8 to this top number is our exponent. So we're going to put to the 4th power. So if I were to simplify, because it says simplify it, right? So if I were to simplify this, the cube root of 8, and again, this is in the calculator. So if you're like, where is that in the calculator, miss? Let me just show you real quick. So if I pull up my calculator so you can see it. My calculator is called Wabbit. It's like rabbit with a W. As you can tell, I'm probably just stalling. So where is, let me clear this. Where is the cube root, right? So how to get that little 3 there? So you hit this math button, and then you should be able to see option number 4 has a cube root. If you had like a 5th root or a 6th root, you would do option number 5. So since it's cube root, I'm going to go ahead and hit 4. So cube root of 8. And then I'm going to raise this to the 4th power. Okay. So that's 16, and which should make sense because the square root of 8 is 2, and 2 to the 4th power is equal to 16. Okay. If you wanted to, like if I didn't say simplify and I just said evaluate, like figure out what this is, I could have just typed in 8 to the, right, and I could put 4/3 here. So alpha y equals, option number 1, I could put 4 over 3 here, and I'd still get the same answer. This proves that they are equivalent. Okay. We're going to do the same thing with this one. So pause the video, try this one yourself, and see if you match with mine. Pause. All right, so this is the 4th root of 16 to the 3rd power. And again, you could put the 3 here if you want. So the 4th root of 16, right? What is the number that if I raise it to the 4th power, I get 16? And that number again is 2. 2 to the 4th, right? We just did this right here. So the 4th root of 16 is 2, and 2 to the 3rd power is equal to 8. So our final answer is 8. And again, you could have done that one straight calculator. All right, so this was the reason why we're saying to learn it. So this is the 4th root of 16x to the 12th y to the 10th. So we can split this up into 3 different parts. So the 4th root of 16, which we've just done. Then we have the 4th root of x to the 12th. And then we have the 4th root of y to the 10th. So 4th root of 16th, right? 16, what number multiplies by itself, or what number to the 4th power is 16? So this simplifies to just a plain old 2, right? And the reason why is because if I were to take the 16 and split it up, that's, I could say, just to make it simpler, I could say this is 4 times 4. And then if I were to split this up, that's 2 times 2, and this is also 2 times 2. So that's 2 to the 4th power is equal to 16. So the 4th root of 16 is just 2. All right. I could take this right here and rewrite this as x to the 12, right? Because that's our exponent over, and our root is 4. So 12 divided by 4 is the same thing as x to the 3rd power. So I can simplify that to x to the 3rd power. And this last one, right, I can take this and rewrite this as y to the 10 over 4. And if I were to simplify, because it does say simplify the exponents, I can simplify that to be 5 over 2. And if you didn't know that, right, you could just go like this. You could go, okay, alpha y equals, option number 1, 10 over 4. Hit enter, and I get 5 over 2. Okay, and the reason why is because 2 goes into 10 5 times, and 2 goes into 4 2 times. So let's put the whole thing together. So write the radical expression in exponential form. It's 2x to the 3rd y to the 5 over 2. And that's our final answer. All right? All right. Check for understanding. Go ahead and try this one by yourself. See if you can take this, split it, and then simplify. Write it in simplest exponential form. Pause it, show it to Varghese, and then go ahead and do the problems that are here. Okay? Good job.